Call to order the Board of Education
Yeah.
Committee of the whole meeting on Thursday, May 28, 2026. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The first thing on is Mr. Ford's going to talk to us about the high school strategic planning site update.
Very good.
I thought we were building a new high school.
You just let me know how I can help in that process. Just one more thing on the plate. I put this together kind of similar to the way that we had our update after the first semester. So I won't read through this verbatim. Feel free to look through it at any time, and if you guys have any questions, just let me know. But I just want to have a huge shout out to our staff and our kids. It's been just an incredibly rewarding year. Feel like we got a lot of great things accomplished this year. So this is our second semester trend line, making our growth towards our school improvement goal of having 97% or more of our students graduating or having all passing marks. And you see on there, February 8th was our high point. The very end of January was the flu bug hit us hard. But then from there on out, we had a steady decline and getting kids off of the list. And it's kind of ironic, funny, first semester and second semester was 72 kids, but there was only 26 kids that were on the list in both the first and second semester. So that was really cool to see. But overall, you can kind of see the different percentage breakdown there by the cohorts and by the grade levels. Something to kind of point out, our senior class, they were literally 2 kids away from hitting the 97%. So we also, they're going to come back, some of them are coming back for summer school. So I'm hoping that by the time it's all said and done, our graduation rate might be even over 91% by the end of June. So made some great growth in that regard. And then on the last page is just talking about our referral rate and how we were trending throughout the year. It is interesting. For the most part, this mirrored what happened last year and the year previous, where you see a little bit of a spike in October and then it kind of trends down. But what we didn't see is we didn't see the spike in March and February that was prevalent last year. So makes me encouraged that some of our intentional efforts through our MTSS behavior process are starting to take hold and help the kids be successful. So big overarching goal for this upcoming year, we need to try to continue improving our attendance rate. So we've worked on that really strategically on putting some additional supports in place to help our kids get to class on time and also get kids to school. So because that's also why I think we're kind of hitting a little bit of a plateau on our passing rate, because if you're not coming to class, it's tough to pass. So any questions for me?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I have never, and I know I've taught 1 or 2 years, but in all those years, I have never seen an administrator try as hard as you did to get kids to pass, so thank you. If they didn't pass, I have to say it's their fault.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's very kind of you to say. It was really cool. We did Saturday school in the 4th quarter. So I bought donuts for the kids, and then I bought pizza every once in a while if we had a big turnout. Well, kids started like, do I have to go to WASP? Can I just come to Saturday school? Well, WASP is 40 minutes. Saturday school is 3 hours. It's like, guys, that is a terrible trade. I don't know why you're wanting to give up a Saturday for that, but it was actually kind of funny because we actually got quite a few kids off the list because of Saturday school. So we're looking at different things we're going to do for that for next year too. And yeah, like I said, get the attendance rate up. I think then that'll help us crack that 72 number mark, because that's where we hit in both the first and second semester. We had one kid, I have to tell this one story before I'm done. I promised you I could be done in 5 minutes, but this is a story you guys will appreciate. Last day of school, we had a kid that had one failing grade. It was PE, and he shows up with his Chuck Taylors on, and he had not run the mile yet. And we told him, head back home, and he went and got his shoes on, and he ran the mile before graduation practice, and he passed. So it was good. It was really good. So anyways, thank you guys all. It was a great year. So very good. Very good.
Thank you.
You betcha.
Before we move on, I would like to add something to the record that, that Brandon Detrosky, Eric Trusty are both out of town, so unable to attend the meeting, and Aaron Hamilton has a family activity, and so couldn't be here, but I'd like to, that be made part of the record. Next up is NSAA Cooperative Sponsorship Agreement, Mr. Kaiser.
Hey everybody.
Hi.
This is pretty simple and standard issue when it comes to our cooperative agreements with a few of our activities at the high school. Our swim team, who is Beatrice Norris, Fairbury Freeman, that agreement is up for renewal this next year, as well as is our baseball co-op with Diller Odell. And so the NSA requires that it gets passed through the boards of every school that we do this, and so I'm just putting it on your radar that will be coming to vote for approval. We are not renewing the Freeman Girls Wrestling because they are going to be starting their own official girls wrestling program, so that one will not be continuing, but we have the other two.
How many players do we have from Diller Odell?
We had 2 this year, and so there's one, that one between the two has garnered more attention just because it has not been a tradition of going with them. Having talked with a bunch of people, we felt like there's a couple kids that will be graduating in the next 2 years. We don't want to pull the rug from underneath them when they've been a part of it for 2 years already. So that was kind of the thought process with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can ask
Frequent flyer.
Yeah. Next up is Mr. Alexander with administrative contract language, administrative contract language.
Yep, and before we jump in, just want to take a minute to introduce a couple of new faces. Well, one new, but welcome back. First, our middle school assistant principal for next year, Nicole Justison, front row here. So you just place a face with the name. And then in second row, high school assistant principal Melissa Kroll will be joining us for next year as well. So they come to the first board meeting and get to see how things operate at the committee of the whole. Yes, so as Mr. Kaiser said, putting the cooperative sponsorship agreements on your radar screen. The next part of this is something for you that I just want to put on your radar screen. You can think about it, then we can talk about it as we move forward. But it comes down to contractual language primarily for our assistant principals and principals. Doesn't really include us at this point. I don't think there's anything in there that you would necessarily want to make a change to, but just something that I think you as a board need to think about and as we move forward into the future. And that is currently in contracts, all administrative contracts, but again, specifically emphasizing middle school or assistant principal contracts and principal contracts. It states vacation days should be taken during the summer months. All vacation days shall have the prior approval of the superintendent. And the second statement in there is that the assistant principal / activity director or the principals will live within the district of the Beatrice Public School District 15. So there's 2 statements that are currently in the contract that I think you as a board may want to consider. one of the first one is the vacation days. What I would recommend, and I'm open to different language, but it's really hard with 20 vacation days to get those in during the summer because we as superintendent and assistant superintendent frequently ask the principals and the assistant principals to come in and start planning for next year. And they do that a lot on their own anyway. So just asking them to get those 20 days in during the summer is sometimes just a challenge. So I know it says should be taken, but that's hard for them to do. So just a little bit of language change that would say vacation days are highly encouraged to be taken during the summer months. Vacation days during the school year must be used with discretion and have the prior approval of the superintendent. Would just be some wording that would give a little more flexibility to that. So just a recommendation for that. The second one, the second statement would be the assistant principal activities director will live in Gage County. This is a requirement in the event that an emergency situation arises and the administrator must be available. I know we're in a teacher shortage, and I think everybody understands and recognizes that, but over the course of the time that we have been interviewing, advertising, interviewing, and conducting principal interviews, there has continually been a decrease in the number of applications we have received for those positions as well. So I think just going by what we see and what we hear, I think we're looking at sometime in the future, there's going to be a shortage of those people as well. And I think if we look at maybe giving a little more flexibility in terms of the parameters that we're asking those people to live within, it's not too much more of a stretch within Gage County, would help. There's also, from the standpoint that we have qualified candidates that have been very good candidates that we have either not been able to interview or they've chosen not to interview, or we've interviewed and not been able to offer them a position of administrative role because they live outside of Beatrice Public Schools. So those two items, I think, are just things for you as a board to marinate over in terms of contractual language and think about, would they provide a little more flexibility, and especially in the hiring of assistant principals, and activities directors, that would make sense. Okay?
And now moving on to the policy updates.
The most eventful part of the evening for you that you've all been waiting for is since last June when we do policy updates. So before we start, just keep in mind that these policy updates that you are getting are all the red line versions directly straight from legal counsel. And we do this in the initial readings so you can see the changes required by the new legislative statutes, and all changes to reflect Beatrice Public Schools will be made for the June board meeting and inserted into a clean copy as it's called. So the red line versions that you have in front of you are strictly draft at this point. You'll notice there are some formatting things, some page number corrections, things like that will be made and presented to you in finality at the June board meeting. So I will go fairly quickly. If I need to stop, just interrupt me. Because if you have a question, just interrupt me. All right? And you do have you have the policies in front of you, and you have a summary sheet to follow along that I'll just be going off of. All right. Policy 1110 sounds like something to do with bulletin boards, which it kind of does, but it's as a result of LB 429. This added new requirements for equal access to teachers by professional organizations and teacher associations. Policy 1110 has been updated to ensure that qualifying organizations and associations are granted such access under the new law. Basically what this is allowing is that the Nebraska State Education Association, NSEA, is the primary organization that has had access to teachers in the past. The Association of American Educators has kind of been the force behind this change in the law, because they also want access to teachers' emails and physical mailboxes at the school, as well as the teacher lounge bulletin board where information is posted for the NCA. So that's really what this change reflects in policy
Okay,
11.
so when you look at this, it says upon request by professional employees organization, it doesn't really specify teacher or education organizations. So you might have the CPAs come in and say, we are a professional organization, can we access employees? That would be allowed under this. So they could have like 200 emails a day from professional organizations
And
that are not related to education. That's what I'm reading.
you are correct, and that was pointed out to the lawmakers at the Capitol in testimony when it was passed.
And did they not get that?
No.
Well, I hope a lot of people want what they don't want. I mean, that could just be a nightmare for employees.
It could.
Cause them to miss
Other
emails that
emails.
we want them to see.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, just as I said, you have a summary. Policy, the next one, 1121, is not a policy from Perry. It's a policy that we're including in our annual updates, but it doesn't come from Perry Law Firm. It's one that has arisen to a level requiring board discussion and decision-making that I think, it's my understanding, has been an unwritten policy at the Beatrice for a number of years. And it directly relates to Wednesday nights. From the beginning of a religious education courses, usually in September, as I understand when they start, at the start of the school year, throughout the school year, that Wednesday nights would be free from school-sponsored activities after 6:30. And with limited exceptions, there have been times where limited exceptions have existed due to NSAA-sponsored activities or cancellations requiring rescheduling due to weather. So there have been times where Wednesday nights have been taken up. I know at times, this has been a question as to why certain things are being allowed to be scheduled. And this has come to my desk a few different times. Maybe it's come to you, questions have come to you as well. And I think it's just time that you as a board, instead of having an unwritten policy, discuss what you would like as a policy and put it into practice so it's clear to everybody. It makes it easier for us to enforce, and we can move forward with it as you would like. For purposes of this conversation, it's also, it's a natural question to ask, well, what do other schools do? That's a natural question to ask. So I polled the ESU 5 schools, the Stand schools, and the Trailblazer Conference schools, and of the responses that I got back, 12 of them have a similar policy that is in front of you, 1121. 5 of them have no policy at all, and 1 of them has a statement in their handbook. And those were the responses that I got back. So I guess just looking at the policy, this policy was taken from another school, what their policy was, and adapted to make it fit for us, and it's kind of what I think would make sense. So,
Just one question, principal or athletic director, who's in charge then of non-athletic events?
That would be the
Just music
principal.
competitions?
So the principal would be the not, yeah. But even the activities director, and maybe that should say activities
Yeah.
director.
yeah.
Because the activities director is the person, Kale does the
Yeah.
music events too, so, yep.
Good
we
catch.
just-
We
nice
can
catch.
change that language. to
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm not, well, obviously, I'm one of the people that think this is a good idea, and in fact, it was just unwritten, and most of us just thought, I just thought it was a rule, you know? And I would just like to share my rationale for that. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time reading it, but I thought maybe you would want to, and I don't think it's just, obviously, I'm here as I'm currently a pastor and have been a teacher in the district, so I've kind of seen it from a couple of different sides. And I also think, at the end I talk a little bit about, I just think that not necessarily just spiritual growth, but also personal growth for people. And before it was just, at least Sundays and Wednesday nights were something that, even if a family did not attend a church, they could use that as family time. It was kind of built in. So that's some of my rationale. And also, as he talked about how difficult it is to find administrators that want to live right here, I think also currently we ask administrators to work 7 days a week, and they can all say they want to, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. And when they leave, they sometimes, one of the reasons they give is it's too much, you know. So I'd appreciate you looking that over, and if you have questions, to contact me with questions.
All right, moving on, now back to the summary. Policy 3560, LB 596 updated references in the record retention laws to better reflect current technology and electronic storage capabilities. And policy 3560 has been updated to reflect these changes. Essentially, what it does is update, bring up to speed the record management capabilities of schools to say that we can do that electronically. So not a big change, but in the past, everything's had to be done by paper. Now it says we can do those and retain them electronically as required by law. Policy 5004, full-time and part-time enrollment. LB 937 refined the part-time enrollment statutes this year. Senator Merman proposed this to provide greater flexibility for students participating in national and state activities. The driving force behind this was FFA, and basically students that aren't enrolled in the school full-time wanted to participate in FFA or other national organizations, but were being required to enroll in a certain amount of credits because that's what the NSAA made them enroll in for activity participation in NSAA sanctioned events. Well, Senator Merman wanted it to be that part-time students would only be required to enroll in the number of hours that organization requires them to be enrolled in, which is different than what the NSAA requires them to be enrolled in. So the NSAA requires 5 hours of enrollment by a part-time student. FFA and other national organizations may only require 2 or 3. So it's trying to allow more kids to be that are part-time students, allow them to participate in activities that may not be sanctioned by the NSAA under lesser hours. Does that make sense? So that policy has been, 5004, has been changed to reflect that. Policy 5005, student residences, admission, and contracting for educational services. Really, the nuts and bolts of this is LB 937 imposes a new requirement that school districts may not disenroll a student who is a subject of a DHHS investigation. So what that means is sometimes it happens that if a parent or a custodian or an educational decision maker is under a DHHS investigation, they will disenroll the child from school because they fear that DHHS will show up to the school and interview the child or other. So at this point, the legislature has stepped in to say, as a school district, if if DHHS shows up and the student is under investigation and the parent or the educational decision maker or the custodian tries to show up and disenroll that child, you have to call DHHS immediately and report it. That child cannot be disenrolled from school if they're under investigation. So that's what this LB 937 changed.
So I have a question, if you read the last paragraph here, I think that we are missing something because the children of employees of the federal government residing in whichever occurs first, doesn't make sense.
And this says page 3 of 2, it says page 1 of 2.
Maybe it needs to be through the copy, you're right.
Yeah,
I'll email it, I'll look for
Okay,
it
she has
here
page 2
right
too.
now.
I mean,
Do you
it's
want me
just,
to go
I don't
copy
know
that real
what
quickly?
that means.
it might have skipped page 2. So, yeah, we can
Copy
get that to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know it's page 3 of 2.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, and that's the formatting I was talking about earlier that came straight from the attorney that we've got to fix all that, so. But essentially, and we forgot to talk about this at the ATM meeting the other day, I don't know if, I think we skipped over this one on accident, but if a child is under investigation, you can't let the parent disenroll.
Does this happen a lot?
We have, quite frequently, we have Health and Human Services show up at the schools, and they will interview kids, and we, if they are accompanied by a police officer.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, that makes sense.
It finishes the rest of the story.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I would have stopped tonight. You'd have had a text from him. How many people do it?
Okay. All right, so that's 5,005. Policy 5006, you have two parts to it. You have the policy itself, and then you have the appendix, which is the option resolution. You will recognize that option resolution because we have to approve it every year, which puts a capacity limit on every grade level that we have, on the basis of how many option students that we can accept. LB 653 amended the option enrollment statutes by requiring the automatic acceptance of siblings as option enrollment students moving forward from this point forward. So the nuts and bolts of the policy is that in past years, we've had the ability, if a family came and there was one student that wanted to opt in, and maybe they had 3 or 4 other kids, but we had grade levels that were completely full, and we couldn't opt those kids in because that would have put us over capacity, or we didn't have room, or whatever the case may be. We had the ability to say, no, we can't let them in because we don't have room for them if there were siblings. Well, now, we have to take siblings in accordance to this new law.
But parents don't necessarily have to opt in all their children, they still have to fill out the paperwork for the siblings, I'm assuming.
Correct. Yep. They still have to fill out the paperwork. The deadline is still in place. So if they don't meet the deadline, we can still deny. So if it's past the deadline and we're at capacity, we still have the ability to say no for that year. But if they have siblings, then we have to accept them. Okay, that takes care of 5,006. 5,008, moving on to attendance. LB 937 amended the student attendance laws to provide that a documented absence from this is the key part, credentialed health professional shall excuse a student's absence for that day and not count toward a student's truancy accumulation. So, whatever definition of a credentialed health professional you put in there will now count, will suffice as counting as clearance for a student to be absent.
Well, James is gonna meet his goal, whether it's a new
Might
policy,
help,
right?
yeah, it might help, it might help.
All right. Moving on. Policy 5101, student discipline. Principals were excited about this one. Basically, LB 653 amended two parts to the Student Discipline Act. The first part deals with a few years ago. You'll remember that they changed the Student Discipline Act that preschool through second grade, students could not be suspended from school, no matter what they did, except for if they brought a deadly weapon. Well, after a teacher that was pregnant, not here in Beatrice, but a teacher that was pregnant in another school near us, got kicked in the stomach by a first or second grader, I'm not sure. And there was violent behavior by one of those students. It became clear to the legislature that maybe they needed to rethink that. So the law has been reversed that a preschool through second grader under the Student Discipline Act can now be suspended for violent behavior if that occurs. So it puts that suspension possibility back in place. That's the first part. The second part affects short-term and long-term suspension. Those are two types of suspensions that building administrators can work with when it comes to dealing with students who are in one form or another needing to be suspended from school for whatever the case may be, whatever the behavior may be. And basically, it just makes them identify the conduct. They have to explain the actions taken by the school to attempt to address and alleviate the behavior. They have to put resources, explain resources the school is able to provide or recommend to assist the student. They must explain how the school plans to address the behavior moving forward, including strategies to maximize the student's continued participation in school. So, not a lot different than anything that takes place right now anyway. It's just making it a formality in actual law.
And it is only for that school year, is that correct? If you suspend somebody for the rest of the years and they can come back the following years?
Correct. Now, the difference between that is suspension and expulsion. If a student is expelled, depending on how the expulsion works, they may not be eligible. Yep, good question. All right. Policy 5205, graduation. Now, again, this graduation policy is boilerplate, so it's not Beatrice's graduation, it's the state graduation policy, because we require 260 credit hours. But basically, it's not even about the credit hours. It's about a student that may be, or who is or was under the jurisdiction of a juvenile court and placed in out-of-home care at any time during the student's high school enrollment shall be eligible to graduate from the district under two conditions. One, the student at any point in time was enrolled in the high school in the district, and two, the student has met the minimum graduation requirements established by state law. So that's the change, and that's 200. All right, moving on. Policy 8130, annual organizational meeting, which refers to you as a board, and you pretty much already do this anyway. Allows each school board, LB 596 allows each school board to designate the method by which they will give advance public notice of board meetings. The method must be noted in the meeting minutes. At the annual organization meeting, which you know is January, each board should approve and note in the minutes the designated method of giving notice, such as the district's website, or posting in conspicuous places within the district, or the practice has typically been posting of the notice in the Beatrice Daily Sun in our case, and on the website. So, basically all it does is say that at our annual organization meeting in January, we're gonna say where we're gonna post the meeting, which we've done for the past, I don't know how long, but the past 8 years we've been here.
It's 2, 3.
Yeah, I think 3 has the legal reference on it, or they may have some of that, and yes, that little extra stuff. Yeah. Uh-huh.
One, two,
Others,
three, come on.
no. There's a couple others.
All right, what is that? All right. Policy 8342, designated method of giving notice of meetings. LB 596 amends the Open Meetings Act notice requirements. Previously, notices of board meetings were required to be published in the newspaper, with several exceptions. Now, notices of regular meetings only need to be published 4 times per year. So if you look at the calendar year, you could divide that into 4 sections, and you could post 3 months worth of meetings, and then post 3 months worth of meetings, divide that up and post it that way if you want to. The regular meeting schedule, the location of the regular board meeting, and the method of advance notice designated by the board notwithstanding the foregoing, the board reserves the right to change the regular meeting schedule or location if circumstances require such a change. So really all it's saying is instead of publishing every meeting, you can now publish a group of meetings at a time if you want. And you will meet the statute of the law. Lastly, policy 3130 deals with purchasing, and it is not a required policy, but wanted to bring it to your attention as a recommended policy. On your summary, you'll see where I wrote recommended. The purchasing policy is just important to ensure that boards have oversight of large purchases in the district, while affording the administration the flexibility to make smaller purchases when needed. Policy 3130 does not delineate between purchasing products and expending district funds for ongoing service or renewals previously approved, such as utility bills, insurance renewals, and so forth. To better address the distinctions between these scenarios, each board may consider updating 3130. So this policy, basically, what it does is, in the event that a purchase is needing to be made, like a vehicle, that's probably the best example I can think of to give you. Because we have this happen when we need to buy a vehicle and we find a good use one that pops up. We get contacted by one of our vendors in town, and they say, hey, we got a 2024 with 20,000 miles on it. We'll sell it to you for this. Do you want to buy it? Typically, if we have to wait for board approval for that, there's a chance that vehicle could be gone. So what this policy does is it allows the opportunity for the superintendent to call the board president and say, hey, is it all right if we make this purchase? We typically will still bring that to you as a board to approve through board approval at the next meeting, but it gives that level of communication between the board and the superintendent that those funds are being expended to do that.
Is there a limit on how much, I mean, can it cost like $1 million? Just go ahead.
You, yeah, you as a board certainly have that ability to put a limit in there if you'd like, yes. There's just not one in there currently. So, again, something to think about. You can surely take these home for some good night reading tonight and get back to me. We will, as you know, the policy process, as you see them now, you'll see them again in June, board meeting as first reading. We'll have a Cal meeting where we can put them on the agenda there and talk about them again. We can talk, you'll see them in July. We'll see them, we don't have a July Cal meeting, so you will see them in August, and then final approval will be September for all of these policies, so. Okay,
That's all.
that's it?
Okay, this is the proper time for public questions and comments on any topics. Please make sure, when we have someone that has asked to address this, so Amber, if you would come over here and sit right there. Amber Kirkendall is going to talk to us. And she has provided some,
And just for some context, for this, I will not be using my child's name, but anyone from the board can certainly get that information. I will also not be using the name of the approved school that I'll be talking about, but starting when my child was in 3rd grade, he went to this approved school that is only accredited through 8th grade. They transition in the high school years to like transitional skills. He did sewing, he did cooking. As with all IEP students, the opportunity for 200 credit hours was available, and because they wouldn't transfer like math and reading, because it wasn't comparable, they did give us the 200 credit hour. But what this will be focused on is the transitional classes he received, and the only reason I even got to an appeal for Jason was because of the voc rehab. I would have accepted everything else and then escalated to an appeal to the board that was denied, so I have my statement. Members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I already submitted a longer written record, so tonight I want to focus primarily on the policy implications raised through our appeal process. Nothing in policy 5003 specifically states that transition services, workplace learning, state-approved vocational rehabilitation programming, or life skills instruction must automatically be treated as non-transferable middle school elective credit simply because they occurred through an approved special education pathway. And since this body ultimately upheld that interpretation through the appeal process, we respectfully believe that the policy itself now requires clarification or revision. Under the current interpretation of policy, substantially similar workplace learning completed through state-approved vocational rehabilitation and transition programming could not count towards graduation requirements, despite involving the exact same placement that he'll be in the summer, the exact same type of work, and the exact same educational goals. The previous workplace learning was also summer programming completed outside of the regular school year. So not during when he was doing math and science. This was a summer. Through the exact same approved organization, vocational rehabilitation, now being recognized moving forward. Yet those prior hours were effectively treated as non-transferable middle school elective credit. As a result, approximately 216 additional workplace hours must be completed before July 31st, in addition to approximately 15 remaining academic credits required for graduation. Because it's important that he graduates with his cohort. I think that people who know him will know that it would be very discouraging for him not to. We did not initially understand that this requirement for his summer 210-hour WBLE placement had to be done by July 31st. So it's not a realistic timeline for him and could be really exhausting. Such an immediate timeline, which further highlighted the practical impact of the policy interpretation, is why I'm here. The concern is the policy interpretation that allowed substantially similar transition-based workplace learning from a high school age special education student to be categorized in a manner equivalent to non-transferable middle school elective coursework. In practice, an approved special education pathway accredited through 8th grade, but approved to provide high school services with a strong focus on transition programming and IEP services with accredited teachers, sewing, cooking, was effectively treated like middle school for transfer purposes. Once the academic structure shifted beyond 8th grade, the educational focus appropriately transitioned toward the workplace readiness, vocational rehabilitations, life skill instruction, and transition services, all recognized components of Nebraska's special education and transition framework. Those services are not extracurricular activities, they're not filler electives, they're educational programming specifically designed for transition age students with disabilities. And respectfully, the summer workplace component should not even be a point of dispute because it occurred through state-approved vocational rehabilitation programming, which is in itself a recognized and required component to be offered for transition planning within Nebraska's IEP framework. Policy 5003 already allows individual review and consideration of comparable instruction assessments, transcripts, teacher evaluations, and demonstrated competency. We respectfully ask the board consider several policy clarifications moving forward. First, to clarify within a policy that approved school education transition programming for high school age students is not automatically treated as equivalent to middle school elective coursework for transfer purposes. Second, to clarify that workplace learning, state-approved vocational rehabilitation programming, transition services, and life skill instruction completed through approved special education pathways may be individually reviewed and considered for credit under Policy 5003. Third, during our appeal meeting with Jason, we were informed that moving forward, transfer students would be publicly recognized according to their cohort placement, because this was a problem. He was recognized as a freshman, placed as freshman, rather than solely by credit classification. We appreciate that clarification and that change. However, the earlier interpretation negatively impacted Jasper's first semester experience, and we respectfully ask that cohort-based public recognition practices also be clearly reflected within the written policy so families and students have, I'm not at 5 minutes, am I?
That was 5 minutes.
No.
If Ms. Horton
I'm
Mark
really
will let
close
you.
to
You can
finish.
finish, yeah, go ahead.
I tried to time myself.
You are good.
You're
You are
fine.
good.
However, the earlier interpretation negatively impacted Jasper's first semester. Yeah, so there is clearly significant investment within Beatrice Public Schools, and there's so much we're so grateful for in transition services and workplace readiness, vocational rehabilitation, life schoolhouse, programming, including programs such as that transition house, the summer program that you worked hard to establish, which makes this policy outcome so difficult for us to understand. Because if these programs are recognized as valuable educational programming moving forward, it is difficult to understand why substantially similar programming already completed through the exact same approved organization was ultimately treated as non-transferable middle school elective credit. At the end of the day, this issue is larger than one student. It is about whether district policy fully and equitably recognizes transition-based educational programming for students with disabilities. We respectfully ask the committee board to review the clarify these policies so future students and families are not placed in similar situations again. Thank you for your time and for the extension.
Thank you. So what you'd like us to do is review policy 5003.
And we can,
Okay,
Sure.
all right. Thank you
thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.